Aloha, and thank you so much for coming, Eko Mamai. It's wonderful to see everybody here this evening for this wonderful program in the Saito series. Thank you so much for coming. Now, the story of Henry Opukahaia, originally it was known only to a relative few people. Back in 1818, his original memoirs were published just a few months after his untimely death in Connecticut of typhus. But in 1968, he reached a much wider audience thanks to the efforts of the Women's Board of Missions for the Pacific Islands, who republished his memoirs. And they also republished or created and came out with a new edition, an expanded and enhanced edition of his memoirs just last year in 2012, for which we are all very, very grateful. Henry O, as he is often referred to with great affection and respect, was a remarkable man in his own right. But he also had a very powerful impact on a lot of other people. He was the inspiration for young men and women who became the first missionaries to the Sandwich Islands in the early 1800s. His exceptional piety and passion inspired these people to the extent that they were able to leave, or inspired to leave their homes and to come to a new place and create new homes, sort of as the result of what he was able to convey to them as the importance of bringing the Word of God to a new part of the world, including David and Sarah Lyman. And this was so important to David and Sarah Lyman that Henry's story became part of the Lyman Mission House tour that we give here at the museum every single day. We are extremely fortunate this evening to be able to welcome to our group Deborah Lee Kapeka Lee, who is Henry's first cousin, 7 times removed. She was also the spearheader of the collaborative effort to return Henry's iwi, or his physical remains, from the Connecticut cemetery in which he had been lovingly interred 175 years previous, to his home here on the Big Island. So in 1993, Henry's iwi found their final resting place here on the Big Island. And tonight, Deborah is going to share with us a little bit of his story, Henry's story of why he was so important, why he was so special during his life, how she was able to bring him home, and why he continues to be a source of great pride and inspiration to so many people today. So I ask you to join me in extending our aloha and welcome to Deborah Lee.
Because I'm wearing the Ihao Shaolins and they're very special, I just want to have this on me, but I appreciate the token. Thank you very much. Aloha. Aloha. Aloha, thank you. Welcome for this evening's talk of Opukahaia. I ask your forgiveness if during this time together, I might get a little teary-eyed or emotional, because it's a very personal story of how this young man affected my life 20 years ago. Yesterday, February 17th, 2013, made 195 years of his passing. 195. He died on February 17th, 1818 in Cornwall, Connecticut. And I will begin my section. Henry Opukahaia was born approximately in the year of 1792 in the district of Ka'u on this island, in the village near Ninole, which is now Sea Mountain Golf Course. Sea Mountain Golf Course is adjoining Punalulu Black Sand Beach, and this is where Henry's village was. However, at about the age of 10 or 12, there was a tribal battle. King Kamehameha I was trying to unite this island together, and although his parents were considered commoners, his mother, Kamo'ula, was related to the king. So as I stated, he died yesterday, 195 years ago. I'd like to introduce myself again as being, once again, as Barbara so properly said, that I'm the first cousin 7 generations removed. I'm also the project coordinator of our family organization, Ahahui o Opukahaia, which was formed to bring his physical remains home. I myself, a Hilo girl born and raised in Kilkaha, to my parents quite a while, Elizabeth Lee. My mom is no longer with us. She passed 2 years ago come May. But with her mana'o, you're going to share with me her words in a video that was filmed in 2003, and in her own words, what she felt. This is a picture of my genealogy to Opukahaia. Let me point out that this woman here, her name is Kawe Akanoa Kakavaleno Kawe Apukini Oku'olao. She is my 4th great-grandmother, and she is the common link between my Caucasian cousins and my Hawaiian heritage. Kawe first married John Davis, and from that issue, she had 2 children, Elizabeth and also Roy. From that, she had a marriage, and they had Mary Shipman, Caroline Robinson, Hannah Paris, William, and John. Kawe divorced her first husband and married Uhea, which is a 100% Hawaiian man, who is my tutu, and from their union, their only daughter, Ka'aiali'i, which is my mother's line. As a quick overview, Henry's life was, as he said, I said he was born in Ilole at the age of 10 years old, tribal battle. But the interesting part of it is in his memoirs, it states that he lived with the murderer of his family for about a length of 2 years. And can you imagine how hard that would have been for a young person to live in the home of the person who killed your family? They did not kill Henry for the reason that he was too young to cause any problem, and yet old enough to be helpful with children. After that, his uncle, who was a kahuna in Kealakekua at the heiau, at the Hikiau heiau, learned of Henry's being still alive, and then he wanted Henry to come, Opukahaia, to come to Kealakekua and be an apprentice in the old religion, pagan religion. And this was a Lu'ukini heiau, and that means they had human sacrifice done at the Hikiau. And Henry began learning all the chants, all of the long prayers that I believe helped him to become a scholar later on in New England. He had a very hard life, and he was often, in his book, The Memoirs of Opukahaia, it reads that he was very depressed, he was missing his family a lot, and in about 1808, the ship, the Triumph, a merchant ship, was in the bay of Kealakekua Bay, and he decided to swim out, and he was curious about the ship and where it went, and he climbed on board, and he met the captain, whose name was Caleb Britnell. I just like to dispel the myth that he was he stowed away. He didn't stow away. He was invited by the captain to be part of the crew. So Opukahaia had to ask permission of his grandmother and his kahuna uncle to go and leave the island. His grandmother told him, if you leave, I will never see you again. And his uncle, Pohua, the kahuna priest, asked for a hog or a pig for sacrifice. And once that was done, he was able to leave. The tribe went up to the Seal Islands to gather seal skins and came back to Hawaii to replenish their stores and their food. And then they went to China. They went to Hong Kong as well as Macau. And they stayed in that area, that region, for about 6 months. It was time to go back to New England and sell off their goods from the merchant ship. And they arrived in New York Harbor in about the year 1809. Henry was very curious about his new surroundings and what he saw and witnessed and observed. And in our Hawaiian culture, it's really important that we use our senses, our eyes to see, and to mimic or to do like others. Like he learned how to harvest, he learned very many things. And so after Caleb Britnell sold everything and the sailors went to their homes, he had 2 Hawaiians. He had not only Opukahaia, he also had Thomas Hopu, who along this long trip of 2 years became Henry's best friend. And so Caleb Britnell took both Hawaiian boys to his home in New Haven, Connecticut. And this is where the learning begins. Henry is said to have been on the steps of Yale College. Back then in 1818, the colleges consisted of about 2 to 3 buildings. It wasn't as large as it is today. And his friend Edwin W. Dwight found him on the steps of Yale, and it says that Henry was weeping, and he inquired of Opukahaia, "Why do you weep?" And Henry said, "I want to learn. Those books that the students are carrying contain knowledge, and I want to learn." So with that, Edwin became his teacher of reading and writing. And when, I'm going to say at this point, when Henry does pass away in 1818, it is Edwin W. Dwight who gathers Henry's journals, diaries, pieces of paper, and puts together a 100-page book. And that's the book that eventually inspires the missionaries to come on Henry's behalf to Hawaii to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. I need to say at this point that Henry's conversion to Christianity took years. But upon accepting Jesus as his personal Savior in December of 1850, Henry was on fire for the Lord. At first, I was not going to dwell too much on the memoirs because this book can be bought. This is the reprint, a copy of the reprint that you can purchase upstairs later after this talk is done. But as I was reviewing my notes, I felt that I at least should read his first prayer. And this was at the close of the year of 1810. And so it's about a year that he's been in New England, and he learns at this time. So let me just briefly read this portion. It was at this time, and with a friend who had been mentioned, that Opukahaia made his first attempt to pray in the presence of another. His friend, having knelt down and prayed, turning to him before they rose, said, "You may pray," when he expressed himself substantially in the following terms: "Great and eternal God, make heaven, make earth, make everything. Have mercy on me. Make me understand the Bible. Make me good. Great God, have mercy on Thomas. Make him good. Make Thomas and me go back to Hawaii. Tell folks in Hawaii, no more pray to stone God. Make some good man go with me to Hawaii. Tell folks in Hawaii about heaven, about hell. God, make all people good everywhere. Great God, have mercy on college. Make all good. Make Mr. Samuel good. Have mercy on Mr. Samuel's father, mother, sister, brother." And then he starts with the Lord's Prayer. This is a foreign mission school. Picture the foreign mission school that the American Board for Foreign Commissioners of Foreign Missions built. And may I point out in the corner, when we went back in 1993 to get Henry's remains, this is the stone and a plaque that now shows the location across the street from the United Church of Christ church where this building was once. This is the church on 8 Bolton Hill Road, which Opukahaia attended prior to his death. And that rock is right across the street from this church. It's a beautiful, and what they do, they call that church a townhouse. It's not a church, it's a meeting hall, because they held a lot of activities in that church. A lot of history. Now may I show you what Cornwall Cemetery looks like, and I'd like to point out, if you could just remember the headstones in this church, in the cemetery, because there is a contrast. This is Henry's gravesite, and what I want to point out is his gravesite in Cornwall is adorned with shell lays and pennies, coins, a wreath there. But most importantly, I'd like to show you that the people of New England at the time of his death honored Henry in the best way possible. Their headstones are just regular vertical stones, except for Henry's grave in the Cornwall Cemetery. It is a large memorial with the epitaph about his life. And I think that is very appropriate. Well, not appropriate, it just speaks measures of how the people loved Henry at that time. So at this time, I'm going into the portion of my homecoming project of 20 years ago. And why did I do it? Well, Henry, on his deathbed, wished to come home, but he knew he was dying. But in his own words, he says, "Oh, how I want to see Hawaii, but I think I never shall. God will do best. He knows what is right." And so it was a very big experience for me, an awesome experience for me to be called. And I just want to read the last few words of on his deathbed. It says, "A few minutes before he breathed his last, his physician said to him, 'How do you feel, Henry?' He answered, 'Very well. I am not sick. I have no pain. I feel well.' The expression on his countenance was that of a perfect peace. He now seemed a little revived and lay in a composed and quiet state for several minutes. Most of those who were present, not apprehending an immediate change, had seated themselves by the fire. No alarm was given until one of his countrymen, who was standing by his bedside, exclaimed, 'Opukahaia is gone.' All sprang to the bed. The spirit had departed, but a smile, such as none present had ever beheld, an expression of the final triumph of his soul, remained upon his countenance." So with this, we're going to show you a video that was taped in 2003 by my brother. In this video, you'll see my mother, Elizabeth Lee, my father, a new relative that I have not met yet, Mr. Eli Kawai, and my mother's sister, Mrs. Martha Kamai, on the lanai of my sister's home in Luanu Valley, on the old Pali Road. And my brother, we just came across this video this past week when we were making this presentation for you. And it's so powerful. So at this time, may I show you in my mother's own words the beginning of this project.
This is the genie on it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. This is the one when I met my Haole side cousin in 1967. And I told it's a funny thing, when this cousin, she's more to shipment.
Yeah.
And then she came to Haile Church, her and her family. They were visiting Mrs. Bill Walters, William Walters. And then we used to go to church, Highly Church, that we belong Highly Church. We used to go down Ke'au to the Shipman beach.
Right.
But I know my papa, when we were young, told us, you know, your Ohana is the Roy, the Johnson, the Shipman, and all that. And I don't believe. I say, wow, how can you're so white and we're so brown, you know? How can? But they try to explain to us, but what kind of happen when you go from here and you go way up, you know? I give up. I didn't believe.
No, you
so
know
when I was
why?
older, I got married.
You know, I really right. I mean, David Roy used to bring Mauna.
Yeah.
You know, Mauna come to our Kamehameha school, and in our school there. The father always bring Mauna to meet all the family. Every Mauna, no forget the family. Ina, the cars, us, the kids, all the Mauna, no forget this is all the Ohana now. We always bring Mauna.
And I never believed, but anyway, then during the years when I grew up, my mother, I always remind me, she tell me, you know, Ohana Kako, you know, Opukahaia, and she said, we related to Opukahaia. Then when well, this girl Walters wanted to know who her Hawaiian family, because she heard she has a Hawaiian family. So she called Mrs. Perez, Mother Perez. Oh, who is my Hawaiian family? You know, she said, Elizabeth over there, she went to Highly Church, she's a home and I know that's your Hawaiian family. And we were going to the same church. But me, when we went to the, you know, shipments, I don't say nothing, you know. I didn't want to, you know, say anything. So I just kept quiet. And after when she found out, then her husband came to me one day, Elizabeth, didn't you know you and my Hawaiian cousins, you know? Then I know Papa was right, you know. But I never, like, for my part, go, you know, talk to them. But anyway.
Still more.
And so, you know, so I believe that at that time, God was working to bring Henry home. So that, and then I got pictures of, you know, Tutu Kawe, of Big Grandmother, and all the different islands, and all that. And that was already, we had it. Then after when my daughter called from Seattle, she said, Mom, we're bringing Henry home. I said, what? I said, oh no. She said, yeah, we're going to bring Henry home. And already she started some work with the mortuary up there in Connecticut. And I said, no. She said, no, Ma, I'm coming home and I'm going to tell you the story, get all of the Ohana at the Lavakila Church, and I'm going home. Oh, and I said, you know, this is a big job, and we're not rich, we don't have money, we're poor. She said, Ma, listen, I'm coming home, I'm going to tell you the story. When she came home, we had a meeting, we had Billy Parrish, we had Mauna Roy, and us Kelly, and all that. And she told her story, how when, she said, Ma, you know, I don't know why, but early in the morning, in 1992, she got up early in the morning for, she don't know, and she went get the genealogy, and she was reading the genealogy. And all of a sudden, from the now, this thing, so, you know, so plain, she saw the words, he wants to come home. Those were the words she saw. Oh, then she knew already. Then she told her friend, and her friend was a Mormon. He understand this game, you know, he understood what this thing was about. And he told her, you know, if you see that kind, you gotta do something about it. This is how. That's how she got started. And then when the people in Connecticut, already the work, the progress was already there, but they never knew anything. They don't know what was happening. I think it was right on them. You know, so they said, oh, send somebody here, we're going to meet, you know, send somebody, we're going to talk to Ohana. And what happened? Burl's son, Thomas Walter, was the reverend. He was already in Connecticut. He had a church there, he was pastoring the church. You see, God provides that. And so we called Deborah, Thomas, can we go to the meeting and meet these people in Connecticut? And he was the one that went right there and talked to the people. And he said, though he's, you know, the people over there know so much about Henry because the schools.
Chicken skin, yeah. My mom's explaining everything that happened. She's no longer with us, but thank you to my brother. This was taken in 2003. So we're going to continue on to the next part of it. And these are the 5 words that came to me after reading my connection. And the reason why it's strange, folks, is because I already knew for many years when I was small. I was a person who always wanted to know who I belonged to, where I came from. And so knowing my genealogy from my mother's side of the family, the Hawaiian, pure Hawaiian side, and my dad, which is Pake, half Chinese, half Hawaiian, Lee, I knew. So waking up in the morning was very strange. And then also reading a little short article written by the Reverend Edith Wolf, who in 1968 was the editor of the 1968 version of the memoirs. Reading her short version of the story, which was also all I knew about it, to have been led to do that. And then from the Na'au, from my Pico, Hawaiians if you understand, from the Pico, welling up, the feeling, so overcoming. He wants to come home. So who wants to come home after reading Where I Belong in all this story? Henry's wish would be now fulfilled. His deathbed wish would now be fulfilled. I'd like to take a few minutes to show you the special people who helped me accomplish this, besides my ohana. It's a big thing, and I'll go briefly through this. The Reverend David Hirano, who was also from Hawaii. He was the conference minister in Hartford, and he was the one who received the call that Henry's coming home. In this picture, a group picture, my parents, Paiwa and Elizabeth. In the middle, Henry Fuqua, who was the funeral director in Hartford, Connecticut. Next to him, Reverend Carmen Wooster. And I need to elaborate on Carmen. While I was working in Seattle and Hawaii to bring this about, it was the Reverend Carmen Wooster, who was the Minister of Communications in the UCC Hartford, that did a lot of work. The people of Cornwall and a lot of people in the state of Connecticut did not want Henry's remains to come home. They considered him theirs. You have to realize he would have been buried there in their graveyard for 175 years at this point. But she had to, hire lawyers, and she got the state archaeologists, the best of the best, to do the exhumation. And so she worked very hard, very hard. And later in this presentation, I'll show you how hard we and how best we rewarded her for her work. And then there's myself. Don't you think I look so slim? and then the hero of the moment, my cousin Tom Walter. Local boy hero, but then, now still in the East Coast. But he's the one who had to go and face the lions and the tigers in Cornwall and share with them why we were going to do this homecoming, why it was important. And it wasn't our doing. We didn't want to hurt anyone, but it was time to bring Henry home as he wished on his deathbed, even though it was so many years past. Once again, this is at the farewell service, Tommy and Carmen. And at this service, oh my goodness, it was full of people, and the church was full. We had New York Hawaiians, Hawaiian clubs come, and I needed to show this group picture because in all the pictures we have, I don't have a picture of Uncle Billy Paris. And he was on our board of directors, so he's the one I want to emphasize in that photo. Also in this photo are the two gentlemen who built the casket and the core chest, and I'll explain that later. They're of Winkler Wood Products. This is my mom and Mr. Winkler. And the reason why we have a core chest there is because when I went to Dodo Mortuary and explained what I needed to do, they said, oh, Debbie, there's not going to be anything to bring home. There'll probably be just little pieces of a button or whatever. So a little chest would be fine. So, of course, it was proven wrong. Now, this is at the service, at the farewell service, 6 first cousins, 7 generations removed of Opukahaia. At the top, you can't really see, is Billy Jr. the third. From left to right, my mother, Elizabeth, my cousin Billy Grover. And if any of you came to the book launch last month on the 17th at Highly Church, he was there and I had him speak. Myself, cousin Tommy Walter, and my sister Pikake Lee. I'd like to share with you some photos of the exhumation and archaeologists who helped with this exhumation. This is what the epitaph looks like on the top of the gravesite. And you need to know that we have to pay a $5,000 bond to the cemetery so that the gravesite would be redone and put back as is prior to exhumation. And I'd like at this time to thank the family, the Robinson Trust, on our Caucasian side of the family, who donated $4,500 of that $5,000, and my parents put up the rest. But you have to understand, in God's way, everything, our bills were paid, people donated, churches, schools, they supported our project. So this is a picture, and then the exhumation. It was done by hand, it was done very carefully, it was done with professional archaeologists as well as their students. And I must say, these men are men of science. And they told me later that it was a very special, it was a different unearthing of remains. They said when they unearthed, took out his remains, the hairs on their necks, and they don't believe a lot of things, but they were very careful in their progress. Here is base level, and here is the date, July 12, 1993. And for purposes of our Hawaiian culture, we don't show the EV, so you won't see that. But I just wanted to share the beginning level. There are, however, two artifacts that was found in Henry's gravesite, and one of them clearly marked who he was. This is the only surviving piece of his casket top, and when they found his bones, it had collapsed. The only thing that was surviving was two things, was this heart-shaped, brass-tacked piece of wood that had his initials, H.O., and the age 26. And this was like, hooray, because the people of the area gave so many negative stuff. Like, how would you know after 175 years it's his remains? The ground could have shifted, and all this kind of stuff to, defer us from doing what we're going to do. But the people, his friends, back in 1818, adorned his casket with to identify him. Not knowing that he was coming home, later, but that's what happened. Praise God on that. Another thing, once he died of typhus fever, they built a glass window in the top of his casket. And they found 15 pieces of glass over his skeletal remains, over his skull, for people to view his body, because he died of a contagious disease. Here we are in the warehouse with the Koa casket, and these are the archaeologists on the right explaining to us the process that they went to and how they found him, and we, the family, are there. The gentleman in the black suit is from the funeral home, and they took care of Henry's body from exhumation to the time we took him home. We have a funeral service in Cornwall, and quickly I will show you the pictures. There's Tommy Walter, Billy Grover, my dad, and myself. My mother's back is facing you. And he enters the church, and they had painted a nice aloha sign to welcome us. This is Reverend David Hirano giving his sermon with my mom in the corner. My sister Pikake, I gave her an easy task of reading the scriptures, so she could do that and be a part of the service. After the service was done, can I point out around the lights up here. We decorated the church very beautifully. We taken a lot of anthuriums, a lot of flowers, but what we did before we went, we had made a lot of TV lace, and we wove a lot of straw yarn lace in orange to resemble Lyman, and we entwined them, and we gifted each person coming into the service with this lace. Well, I wanted to point out that after the service, each and every lei that was on these lamps were gone. The church was empty and void of every single lei, but that's fine. You know, they all wanted a memento of the day, so that's good. Here, Hui Malama was on the East Coast. This is the burial committee. The person with the back, his back facing you is Eddie Ayao. He's still with the burial council, and this gentleman here is Puna Lerma. They were in the area and came to our service, which is very an honor. They also asked permission to chant to separate Henry's spirit from Cornwall, since we are bringing him home. And, you know, I'm not very learned in these things, but we allowed them to do that. Leaving Hartford, we had friends from Kauai. I'm not sure if you all know her, Alitha Kaobi. She had gone to the General Assembly, the UCC General Meeting, National Meeting, and then her sister-in-law, Auntie Miyoko, and they both joined us in Cornwall for these services. And the reason I want to point that out is because this long Nihao shell lei was given to me by her at the farewell service. If you noticed, I didn't point it out, but when all our cousins were together, there was a light that shone, and it came through the window and hit Henry's casket. And we were all in a circle having the final prayer. And she was wearing this during the trip, but she took it off of her neck and she gave it to me. And so whenever there's occasion to honor Henry, it's the only time that I wear this. Every other time, it's in the back seat along with the pictures of his evening. Yeah, we have everything properly done. So here's Reverend Hirano showing us off, coming to the airport to see us off. Now, United Airlines, I need to make a point that, you know, as I said, many businesses and individuals, churches, schools, as the media, the newspapers and the television stations had Henry's homecoming story in the network, people started donating things, and United Airlines donated halfway of his casket to go up to New England, and we paid for one way down. But this is funny, this is human, this is Debbie Lee, okay? Wherever we went from Hartford to O'Hare, Chicago, Chicago to San Francisco, and San Francisco to Honolulu. And every time we had to change planes. So what does Debbie do? I run out of the plane and make sure that his casket comes off the plane, yeah, and then goes back on. All the time, because I'm not going to lose this guy, okay? It's too important, too important. Our arrival to Honolulu. And so in Oahu, the Ordenstein family, which is Hawaii Memorial Park, I asked them to be the stewards of, take care of Henry's remains while on Oahu. The reason for it is that the family had taken care of the remains of King Lunalilo, whose remains are on Kauai Church in its own craft. And so they had experience of taking care of royal bones. So we arrived in the evening to Oahu. And so this outer box was built in Connecticut for the return home. Yeah, you see that we're blessed with TV coverage all the time, all the time. So very blessed. And then here, he's put on the hearse to go to the mortuary. Our first service we did was not in a church, but in the UCC boardroom. It's no longer there. You might be familiar with the address, 50 Craigside. on the TV commercial for assisted living. This is where the UCC used to be, and now they're across the street, down a little ways down Amula Avenue. But the first service was at the boardroom. These are the people who were there: Reverend Morrisburg, myself, Ada Larison, my mom and dad, and this gentleman who I really appreciate, Ken Ordenstein. We were there for our first service. More people, may I also point out Carolyn Winston. She was the president of the Women's Board of Missions at the time that this happened. And she's still there. This is Vivian Opukahaia. She is still a receptionist at the Women's Board. Precious, precious people. This is my cousin, my first cousin, Melvin Bull Womananui, and his wife Lani. We all look so young. This is, one thing that we wanted to do was to give opportunity to the public to come and pay their respect wherever he laid, whether it was in New England, Honolulu, on the Big Island. So this is his casket laying in state at the Hawaiian Memorial Park Mortuary building. Talking about coverage, this is Emmy Tominbong interviewing my mother and I on the artifacts that were found. And at this point, may I say thank you again to Mr. Richard Cunningham, who's in our audience, because after 3 weeks of this wooden heart-shaped artifact being in air, it started deteriorating. So by the time we came to the Big Island, we had to ask him to build a fiberglass box to kind of retain the moisture from drying it up and having it crumble to pieces. So thank you, Mr. Cunningham. I know you're in the back. And more coverage. And also, Opukahaia's casket showed how well buriers loved him. There was tremendous outpouring of aloha back in 1818. These people who did not know the aloha word, but they showed it to Opukahaia in the best way possible. The first service, Kahawa Church, Kaina Waiao, Aaron Mahi, and Jimmy Kaina singing at the piano. The gentleman in the red, they did a play of Henry's deathbed scene, and he played Opukahaia. Good looking brother, too. And so this is our family at the end of the service. And we were on our way to honor Henry throughout the water. And this is him leaving the sanctuary. People really showed the outpouring of love. The next place we went to was Kamehameha School's Bishop Memorial Chapel, and it was upon the request of Reverend David Kauku, who was the chaplain at the time, to have Henry overnight. And so we asked my dad for permission, and he goes, as long as you can provide security. And you know that Kamehameha School has lots of security. So we go on. Here's a picture of Bishop Memorial Chapel, a picture of Hawaii and her husband, Charles Reed Bishop, a closer up of Hawaii. And because everything in Bishop Memorial is hoa, Opukahaia's casket kind of just blends in. There's my mom at the grave, at the site. Kamakapili Church is the next and last observance that we will have on the island of Oahu. This is what the church looks like, and they have beautiful stained glass. So this is Ken Ordenstein and Kaina Waiao again. I believe in the back is a long-time Kamakapili member, Mr. Arona, and they're bringing Henry's casket. Also, may I mention that at every service, someone, I don't know who, and I think it's the Memorial Mortuary, always gifted him with a fresh eating lei. And in this lei who, Mrs. Henderson, was mine, and I would put that on Henry's grave. But at his burial, I enclosed it with his casket. I gave away my Legulu Mama, which is right there. Going on, we're so glad that people will come and visit. Even the postman over there, you see. He's in his uniform and shorts. Okay. But people would come and they would pay their respects, and we allow that. We leave Oahu now on Friday, August 6, 1993 for Kona. The Hawaii Memorial Mortuary were generous that they gave us a Hawaiian flag as well as a flag of Connecticut that they draped on the outer box of Henry's casket for us to keep. And I still have it 20 years later in the hopes that one day we can have a museum or a special place to display Henry's chest and artifacts that we gathered for display. So we have that with us. And so we're off to Honau now. These are the people at Honau now. And may I add that I wanted the best for Opukahaia when we came. I had kind of like even grandiose kind of things like a coal casket. Have you ever seen that? I thought of having the Hokulea bring his remains from Honolulu to Kelikikua Bay. I mean, I really called them out, you know, and gave them the opportunity. And they told me it cost about $10,000 or so. I'm like, I think that's Hawaii. This is your Hawaiian Ali coming home and you're going to charge me $10,000. But what I'm trying to say and relay is that the worthy people were the ones who came forward, and the members of Keoa Canoe Club, they had a state tournament in Hana, Maui, and the members who did not make the cut for their races stayed back. And these are the people who tied two canoes together, made a platform, and put Henry's casket on it and paddled him 4 miles to Kelikikua. Now, you have to realize that at the time, we were only going to have a small chest, because that's what the mortuary told me, small chest. I guess I forgot to tell them that we would have a casket. So when we went to the bay, the platform was yay wide, and the casket was this big. So it was very tricky how to rope that thing and secure it properly. So here they are. They adorn their canoes, and everybody's getting ready. And this person whose back is to us, and you'll see later on in the show. This is my cousin, my first cousin, Henry Ke'au Kamuhaula Ho'omana Keli'i Ho'omana Nui, who's also a first cousin, 7 generations removed. He is the namesake of Opukahaia that my uncle, my mother's brother, named his son. And it was he who I asked to swim back to shore from the canoe, touching the aina, symbolizing Henry's full return home to his aina hana, his place of birth. So here we're going. You really cannot see because that platform is so narrow. We're all getting ready. And people watching from the shore. And we're heading out. Chicken skin now. 20 years later, I'm still emotional. Here they're continuing out. This is my beloved auntie, my mom's older sister by 2 years, the Reverend Dinah Del Pino, and her grandchildren, who are now adults with children. And she's my mom's sister, my mother, and this is Anne, Ken Erdenstein's wife, Anne Sage. My parents, with the canoes in the background. And once again, the media interviewing me as the canoes are going in the background. Now, another key thing that I need to share with you is that this is the only time that Henry's remains does not follow us on our plane. And I believe this is why. He was delayed by for the next flight. He was supposed to be on our flight, but for whatever reason, and I know it's all God, his casket didn't arrive to the next flight, so we had to wait for his arrival. And this is the canoes entering the bay. You have to realize that it was a very overcast day. The sun wasn't shining. Really gloomy, actually. But as soon as the canoe rounded the point into Kealakekua Bay, the Lord honored Henry's arrival with the sun breaking the clouds. And it was very, very red. It was like Uncle Billy Paris was like, look at that sun, you know. And so the canoes are there and coming around. And I explained earlier that day, earlier in the morning, I went out and swam with my cousin Henry, and I told him, we swam out, and I explained, I gave him an instruction. I said, Henry, do not swim until you see the steeple of Kaikolu Church. I don't know why, but it just came. Just do that for me. You know, be as far out, and when you can see the chapel steeple, then you can jump into the water and swim to shore. And not realizing, he told me later, I was tired. I had to paddle 4 miles from Honolulu, and then you tell me to swim. I had to paddle, you know, they wouldn't let me not paddle. I had to paddle my own weight, so he was kind of hoo-hoo with me. But all for the good, all for the good. So he starts paddling in, he starts swimming in. But look at that. Look at that sun, and look how that ray just comes to shore. So Henry, he's in the water, he has somebody on the shore helping him out. And he comes out. He took part of the mailele from the casket to symbolize Henry's touching the island. And here is my cousin Henry Ke'au Kaumaula Kili'i Homenawe. Service at Napopo, we had lots of people there. And so this was tricky. How to bring the casket to the wharf, that was like, and then the ocean is moving. But once again, you really cannot see the platform now. That's why it's so thin. But look at these people. Forever and ever, these canoe paddlers will have this memory of Henry's remains, of having done this for us. And once again, Roy Ishihara, Reverend Roy Ishihara, my mom, and I cannot identify the other person. Our evening service at Kahikolu was well attended. The outer box, the casket was covered with a really nice covering that everybody helped. This is my uncle, our cousin Billy Paris, as he speaks about his experience and how he felt about it. Myself, the choir, my mother, giving her manao, but you have it firsthand at the beginning of this presentation. We went around the island. I felt that the gospel of Jesus Christ came for Henry's people, and especially on this island, Henry needed to hit north, south, east, and west of this island. And we start at his own chapel in Honolulu Beach Park. This is an open chapel. This is Opukahaia Church, which no longer stands in Waiohina, but we have this picture. Haile Congregational Church was privileged, and we are so privileged for them to have hosted us for 2 nights. The first night was Sunday, and Reverend Randy Hongo had written a play. It's called Glory in His Soul. And they had built a stage where the choir loft is, and they had many people who are no longer with us today reenact Henry's life. That was the first night, Sunday night. And then on Monday night we had a homily. At the time, these are dear people who are no longer with us. Hannah Kopiko, my mother. Mark Blair, who's married to my cousin Dana Lee Blair. They're missionaries now in Beijing, China. Kim Lyman of the Lyman House. Yeah, she's Kim McCarthy. She's with Haile Christian School today. And our dear friend Floyd Ho'opi. So we have pictures of Reverend John Makuakane, Mr. Dan Johnson with his big full wheelchair. We see him in Hilo all the time. Randy Hongo. And this is Ola'a Congregational Church giving their rendition for the service. And our own Ohana. Thank you to you, Cynthia, and your family for supporting me. Thank you, Devon. today. Thank you. I selected this picture mainly for this person and for others who have LOD in the background. This is Highly Congregational Church and their portion of our mailing. We go to Kona at Opukahaia Church. Here's their gate, and this is Dono Mortuary staff. They switched. The Hilo staff did the Hilo area, and the Kona staff took care in Kona. University of the Nations, Waiwan, I didn't know them too well, but they asked if they could have Henry come to their campus, and I said sure. And they honored him. They decorated their flagpoles beautifully. This is my friend who became a good friend after this experience, Coleman Kaupua and staff. This is Christine Patu decorating. We're almost at the end. This is Lanakila Congregational Church. This is my mother's church, my mom's church in Kainalii, Kona. And this is the inside, and all of this is palapalai. And here is the Reverend Carmen Wooster. My parents and I felt that she did such a tremendous job to get Henry home that we gifted her with a trip to Hawaii to be part of the last week of services here in Hawaii and the burial. And so it was so appropriate because she was able to speak firsthand about the exhumation because we could not. We did not have the money to go early to Connecticut. We only had enough money to be in Connecticut the week of bringing him home. So having Carmen with us that week helped us to share our story. So now we're at the close and we're going to bury Opukahaia on August 15, 1993. And we were also blessed with Senator Daniel Kaka. He came from Washington, D.C. And once again, it seemed that the Lord always opened the way for Reverend Hirano to be at important services. So he was there also. The Ka'ahumanu, the ladies of the Ka'ahumanu Society, honored us by standing in respect to Opukahaia. The beautiful flowers, I couldn't take care of each detail, although doing flowers is my hobby. But I just couldn't think of everything. And the people who decorated the service for the services was tremendous. This is Mrs. Joanna Casper. So once again, David Hirano, Carmen Rooster, Senator Daniel Kaka, the media, and the final memorial service burial. Have you ever seen women carry casket? I had gotten so attached to Opukahaia and his remains. I had a hard time letting go. So the last leg from the church to his burial, to his grave, I insisted that I at least help carry his casket. I didn't care what people thought. I felt I deserved it. I made sure that the representation of the pallbearers were representative of both our Haole side of our family as well as our Hawaii. So this is Mr. Smith, Henry Opukahaia, my cousin back there, the brother, Delpino, Alfred, my cousin Terry Muraki. This is what his craft looked like before putting Henry in his grave. This is how he looked with his casket inside. And then the men, it was very heavy to seal that crypt up, but they had cement, they had created cement blocks. And this is what it looks like when it was sealed. Right now, if you go to Kahikulo Church, it is all complete and done. My manao was that, like Henry's gravesite in Cornwall, I wanted his tombstone area raised above. Not really looking like a bed, but kind of replicating what's in California. Here, after the burial and everything's done, myself, Auntie Diana Aki, she's a beautiful musician from Minolini. My friend Puna Kiboy, she was the steerswoman of the canoe to take Henry from Monanao to Kealakekulu, and Auntie Katie Andrade. Auntie Katie just passed away. Her funeral was last week at Kakekulu. Here again is my mother. The plumeria lace that adorn the rock wall around the gravesite was donated by the Kawamoto family. They have a plumeria farm just above the church. And so, in conclusion, I'd like to give honor and glory to Jesus Christ, who used me, and to my mom. This is Elizabeth Kapeka Honramuili, born on November 26, 1926, and died May 14, 2011. Also to my dad, Mr. Kwaiwali, who's still living, but his health fails him. My parents stood by me, even if my mom thought I was crazy. But, they helped with the initial funding. My father took out loans that used his credit cards, but the Lord had everything in hand, and monies came to pay off our bills. And I made sure that Uncle Billy Paris was the treasurer. I made sure that he would take care of the money part and make sure that everything was paid and done properly. And it was, praise God. In closing, what is Opukahaia's contribution? What did this young island boy do for Hawaii? Number one, he was very educated. When he went to Yale College, he learned 5 languages. He was proficient in English, Latin, Greek, Hebrew, and of course Hawaiian. He's credited to be the author of the book of Genesis from the original Hebrew to Hawaiian. He inspired the missionary movement. He inspired his friends, so that when he died of typhus, even though they mourned his loss, and he was the leading light of the mission movement and the school to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to the islands, his friend Edwin Dwight took his papers and made a 100-page book. And in 2 years, on April 4th, 1820, the first company landed in Kailua. What do we say to these things? But if God is for us, who can be against? Allah and mahalo for your time. Thank you for coming. Do you have any questions or anything that I can answer for you?
Can you just explain the condition of his remains when they dug him up, and what they gave you as the reason for him being so perfectly preserved?
Thank you. Yes, Henry's remains were found to be 6 feet in length. His bones was not like we see on CSI pictures. It was brown colored like coal. He had all his teeth, but on one of his ribs, they showed scratch marks, which the archaeologists said was probably when he had the typhoid fever, that the stress and the rubbing of his organs, scratched his ribs. That was the only thing. He had no cavities. But his skeleton remains, believe it or not, and they said this to me. When they unearthed his skull, there was a smile on his face, and peace and countenance. And so, the reason why they say he was well preserved to come home and that we didn't need the chest was because the earth in the cemetery was very sandy and grainy. And so, through the permafrost and the New England winters, the water would drain properly. His remains were well preserved under the permafrost, the coldness of the ground. and the drainage preserved his bones. But like I have to explain about the heart-shaped symbol in Mr. Cunningham. Can you stand up and introduce and represent yourself? To go to his gallery, he's the owner of his gallery, Cunningham Gallery, and ask, how can I stop this? It's crumbling. So he built for us a fiberglass case. And someone asked me, so where is it today? I said, well, the people buried him with it, and so I feel it should go with it. So both the glass and the heart-shaped wooden case is with him at his feet. And my legulu, so maybe I need to come class and sew another one. I don't know. Anyone else? That was a good question. Thank you, Daniel.
Did he get a Bible and a cross and all his favorite things or whatever?
Well, when we went to Kainaleo, Lanakila Church, which is my mother's church, and it was more like a Ohana service, we put in mementos. I had, from the base of his burial in Cornwall, I had taken some of the dirt and I put it in a glass bottle. Also, someone donated a Yale College shirt. So we put that in. We put a Hawaiian Bible inside. And our Ohana, the children, had memory verses on paper and they put that into his casket. Yes. So we had some mementos put in. Yes.
Was he royalty, or was he just really excelled in school, and that's why they?
Well, to me, he was never recognized as that, but it says in his memoirs that his mother was related to the king. But on his return and bringing him home, I treated him like he was the king. Yeah, trying to get the best of the best, trying to, Now you have to understand, with no money, and everybody thinking I'm crazy, I just had to go by faith and remember that morning of inspiration. And so, to me, if I went as far as I could to the moon, I only came back to the sky. That was more than I could ever dream of. I just reached for the sky. I reached for the moon, the stars, the sun. And whatever I got was okay, because I started with nothing. Yeah, but things happened. People donated, such as the casket. The Winkler Wood Products, when I approached them, he said, okay, the only thing you need to do is pay for the labor for these two guys. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I have two sons that attended Henry Opukahaia school when he was at High Church. How would I have known that? So I didn't pay for the co-op, I just paid for the labor. Aloha Airlines, free inter-island, bringing him home from Oahu. In-kind services. That's why my mom was kind of like, what? We're cool people. No, we cannot, we cannot. But I had to come home and tell her, this is what I experienced. This is what it was. Yeah.
From the moment that I sat down here, his grace is very strong. His presence is strong. Looking at the picture makes me wonder who drew this picture, because his personality, even after 200 years, comes out. I see his eyes in your eyes. I feel the form. I felt it since I sat down.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my son. Gabby, stand up. He might have some resemblance. He's 8th generation removed. But let me introduce you to my cousin Cynthia Akimsu officially. Anyway, her brother is an exact likeness. He lives in Kauai, and I hope to see him next month on March 21st. But he's the exact likeness. 7 generations removed of this picture. Now this picture is mine, and how I got it, Heidi Church has the same picture in their office. Way back in the '93, I wanted to give Kahikulu Church with a copy. So I took the one in the church office. I asked for permission, of course. Took that copy to Reed and Jay, which is right across the street. Had them photograph that picture, return the picture. had Rita J enlarge it to an appropriate size for kahikolo and had it properly framed. And I did a smaller version for mine. I cannot remember who may have done it. I'm not sure if it's a replica from the one that stands a large, very large portrait at Kauai Church. But this is how I got my copy.
Do you know who did the original painting?
It doesn't come to me right off.
It's someone from Waihao.
Somebody from
A woman
Church.
from Waihao. It's in that video that you have for women's board.
Oh, okay.
They express who it is.
Thank you, Karen. And this is Karen Welsh, for those of you who may not know. Karen, can you please stand? She's a mamakahu, or she's married to the pastor of Haile Church, Reverend Brian Welsh, and she helped me with the epilogue that is in the new book. Yes, sir.
The picture in the book, is that the same picture?
Yes. Wait, let me see. No, I don't think so. No. I just like the one that's on the easel because I feel it looks more Hawaiian.
I do too.
If you go into online, on the email, online, and you hit Opukahaia, www.opukahaia.com, you'll see a lot of different versions of his form. Yes, ma'am.
What is the translation of his name, Opukahaia?
Opu is stomach. Kahaia means stomach cut open. It could be a cesarean birth. You know, we don't know, but you have to realize that in his time, there was no written language, and a lot of our people remembered special events through naming of children. So I'm not sure if he was born of a cesarean birth, or maybe his parents were killed and gutted.
I got a good one. The Hawaiians have a philosophy, there's a mind in the stomach, so maybe he's an open-minded or open-stomach person.
Hey,
All right.
I'll go for that.
All right. Yeah, obviously, I could do it.
Lorraine, I saw your hand up. You want to say something? No?
Just one over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Hawaiian spoke English before he left for
He did not know any English.
He did not know. So
He learned from Mr. Hubbard. It's in the memoirs, and for the 2-year trip, it was really like pidgin. He learned, a few words, but it was Edwin W. Dwight, who was a distant relative of Timothy Dwight, who was the president of Yale College, who taught him really all he knew. And even Opukahaia even lived with the president of Yale for a time. People of New England, Christian people, pious people, prayed for Opukahaia. He may not have understood what they said, but he knew they prayed for him. But another thing, in our Hawaii culture at the time, men and women don't eat together, and he saw a lot of that going on. But he had to learn, he had to adjust, and his learning. It says in the book that his countenance was very dull when he first got to New England. But with education, he got more confident, and his standing, he stood up well, and learning, he just loved to learn. And if he didn't know a word, he would ask, spell, please spell. And once you spoke and told him how the words were spelled, he never forgot. But you have to understand, what I know of Opukahaia in Hawaii prior to his leaving and his life in New England until his death is all from the book. He never came home until 20 years ago. He never came home, he never knew anything of him. My authority to speak with you tonight is based on bringing his Evie 20 years ago with the help of my family and friends and you, the community. But it was God. It was God's hand in all of this to honor Henry's wish to have made a difference for Hawaii. You have to understand, our population of Hawaiians were being decimated through illness, smallpox and typhus, not typhus, but smallpox and influenza. And with the coming of the missionaries, they brought not only the gospel, they brought health, education for the people. One of my cousins on the Haole side told me, You know, if you're living today, if you're Hawaiian and living today, your bloodline must have been strong to survive the diseases back then of the 1800s. And I thought about that and I said, yeah, really, yeah, that's true. But we have many, many people, and people numbered many. And now we have just a few 100% Hawaiian. Hi, Karen.
I do want to ask you a question. Were there any missionaries in Hawaii before Henry Opukahaia?
That I'm not certain. I do know that merchant ships had come to Hawaii for about 30 years before even Henry left the islands. You know, Captain Cook had come and discovered the islands in 1798, 1778. So there were people already here in the islands, but I'm not sure if they brought God. I really am not sure. It's not documented to me. I don't know about that. Yes.
How did you choose the place to have his final burial in Hawaii?
Good question. How do you choose? Well, I knew it had to be on sacred ground because I knew that, you know, he was a pagan priest when he left, but when he converted to Christianity and gave his life to the Lord, he needed to be on sacred ground. The way I did it was, actually, to be honest, I put my choice in the middle of 3 locations. I knew it had to be in Kona because that's where he left. The 3 choices were Opukahaia Church, which is the first Christian church. Yeah. And then the next one was Lanakila Church, which was my mom's church. But that presented a problem because of parking. It was very small. But my choice was Kahikola Church because it was just about 1 mile above Kealakiko Bay, where he left. So in my surmise of things, in my thinking, he needed to come home. And he asked to come home, so where is that? Well, the last place he was in Napopo. And so that's how I decided. But I had my family vote and choose. But I put it number 2 of 3 choices. So that's how it came about. And the membership of Kahikola was open to that. They selected a beautiful site off of the parking lot, which gave it access to handicap accessibility. My cousins, the Andrades, they had a construction company and they built the gravesite from bottom up. And the men of the church came and my cousins, the Andrades, came for 2 weeks to Kahikola to build the gravesite, and the women of the church cooked the dinner for them. So it was everyone helping who wanted a hand in everything. Thank you for that question. May I ask you a question? Has anyone not known of Henry this evening? Is this the first time you hear of Henry?
I know of the museum, but I didn't know about the mission house part of it. And I always saw his picture. I thought he's Haole.
Yeah.
But he's a real full-on Hawaiian, right? He doesn't have blood either. He's full Hawaiian.
He's full Hawaiian.
Wow.
He's full Hawaiian.
Because that book picture on the front of the book makes me feel like he's always been more of a white missionary instead of the picture you show, which is in the church. So it's obviously the right one in the church. Well, not the right one, but you know, I don't know. I think.
Did he have any brothers and sisters?
Myself? I'm the oldest. He had a brother who was killed on his back, who was speared when he was running away. His parents were killed, and he was trying to flee. And he had an infant brother by the age of 2 or 3, and the warrior speared him and killed the brother. But they kept Henry because he was not old enough to cause trouble, and he was able to be useful to them. But can you imagine living with the murderer of your family? Not very easy.
Where's this? Where was this?
In Kau, in the district of Kau, Ninole. If you're familiar with the Sea Mountain Golf Course, the Sea Mountain Golf Course, from what I have learned from the Reverend Henry Bouchard, who learned it from his grandmother, he said that the golf course is over the Village Foundation, where Henry lived. And I've been there, I've gone there, and I've gone and found the river and the ocean. You know, it's just north of Honolulu Black Sandwich. So, please bear kindly, Mary.
I just want to say thank you for your hard work bringing Henry. So thank you, Martha.
Deborah has very kindly said that she would be happy to describe any copies of Henry's memoirs that you might have or might wish to purchase. So I'm going to scoot her upstairs and have her sit behind the table for a little while. If you don't have copies of the memoirs already, they are available in the museum shop. If you brought your own copy of the memoirs, I'm sure she would be happy to sign them for you. Thank you so much for coming to this wonderful program.
Thank you.
I'm a preacher and I preach youth.
See, Reverend Beecher.
I preach youth things all the time, and I've used this with Romans 12:1. Probably almost every week that I had a thing, I would tell the story of Henry Opukahaia.
So this is, what is your current address?
What?
Jim. Please return to.
You should get the new one because it has the epilogue of her bringing the body.
Yeah, but this one's beloved.
But this
I
is
know.
beloved. I've had this
Okay, so
everywhere.
where would you
This one tells how she brought the body.
I put the green thing here to remind me that this was the night I came.
Okay, so I'm going to put in.
Let's see, I don't have a business card. Go out and hire me.
What is your name?
Don't want me to do that.
Jim.
Jim, yeah.
Jim Todd?
Yeah. And your name, ma'am? Or a friend? Okay.
She's just a friend, yeah. And she doesn't want me to give a business card because we do a lot of baby laws. I'd be entertained.
You folks live in Hilo?
We live in Poho.
Poho, and Nana Valley.
But this book has been beloved by him for...
Ever since I got it, and then I joined the Hawaiian, the Historical Society and stuff, so I could go roam around and look in this stuff. Now over on Oahu, we were living in Oahu at the time, that was a long time ago. And
Look at that, it's exactly 195 years today.
Yeah.
The funeral was the next day, February 18th.
Oh, no kidding.
Today's February 18th. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, but this, like I said, this book has been beloved by him for...
Do you want me to sign? I am
Yes.
the current.
You were the public, you were there when that version came out. I've got to have you.
No,
What
well,
year is this? What year is this?
this is way before my time, but I am the current president of the
Okay.
Women's Board.
Well, I would like to, maybe on the page where it says it was published by the Women's Board.
Where is that? There we
So
go.
over here, just do it on the back of the map. Do it on the back of the map if you want to.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
And I'll pick up one of the new ones, one of these
I
times.
think the new one. But we want you to know that he's been a very real...
And I always give an invitation, and I would say that the number of kids who have come forward after the Henry Opukahaia sermon is in hundreds, if not almost to 1,000. Because 30 years I was a children's worker in all the summer camps and all the other things that we use. So, thank your family, okay?
Yes.
Thank you for, telling the story.
All right.
Next time, whenever you're in Kona, go and make an effort to go to
Okay, you got my phone.
and go see
Methodist Church.
how do you call it? It's just a mile above the gate. You write that down. Yes. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah. But his relatives were on this side.
Yes. He had grandmother and uncle. Yeah, he had relatives. And,
So you weren't at the village when the battle was?
well, they all fled to the hillside. But his father and mother, see, they were in the caves, and according to the story, they were thirsty. So they got into to pray. That's when Kanye was trying to do this.
have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before. Yes, the world behind me, the cross before.